What even is Dialogic OD? I was talking yesterday about book recommendations for communication, dialogue, Dialogic OD. Question came up. Lovely, great, this is fabulous. But what is Dialogic OD? Excellent question. Thank you for taking me back a step. Let's talk about what we're talking about. OD, organization development, dialogic organization development. Before we get into what specifically that is, we need to talk about what is organizational change. Organizational change is complex. It is wildly complex. As OD practitioners, as a leadership psychologist, as change managers, we are in the business of trying to figure out how do we get a handle on that complexity? How do we get our arms around it in such a way that we can do it well, that we can manage that complexity? One way that we have tried to handle this complexity of organizational change is by directing it, getting it organized in a linear, objective kind of way, rational, right? We create a vision, a goal. What are we actually getting towards? What does it look like when we complete it? We create a timeline with deliverables along the way, dates of when those things are going to be accomplished and what needs to happen to get them accomplished. Our communications messaging, we get a plan in place. We're managing the process, right? Dialogic OD is essentially saying, with the level of complexity we are dealing with organizational change, I'm not sure that is adequately addressing the depth of that complexity. There's still things left, right? Dialogic OD is saying, I feel like that's a little bit like trying to organize or direct the waves rolling in at the beach. I'm not sure that's working. What if we approach change a little bit differently? What if instead of managing change to the people, of directing change to the people, we facilitate change with and through the people? There's a foundational assumption about change that's different. Instead of viewing change as something we plan, we begin, we make progress in, we complete, change is viewed as constant, ever evolving. We don't start it because it's already happening. We don't end it because it's always continuing. It's almost like it's the water that we're swimming in. And as a leader, our job as a practitioner, as a leader, as a practitioner, our job, our work is to notice what's in that water, where's it flowing already, and then facilitate that toward intentionality. How do we work with what's already here? How do we notice what's already here and be intentional about where it continues to go? Great. What does that look like in actuality, right? In reality, there's a generative image, a North Star that we look at no matter how turned around we get within this process, we can orient ourselves to this North Star. Sounds a lot like a vision, right? Difference is that this generative image leans heavy into story, into metaphor, into what it is that we're moving toward, as opposed to making it measurable, making it timely, making it specific. It's leaning into that story and metaphor of where we're trying to go. And we're hearing more and more research all the time on how critically important story is to the way that our brains work, how we make meaning of what we're experiencing, what's happening there. Dialogic OD looks like facilitated discussions about what's going on and where we're going, but the invitations to these discussions aren't just determined by role or hierarchy, but by who has the perspective, who has the insight, who has the point of view, who has the experience that needs to contribute to this conversation. Can kind of be a flattening of the hierarchy for this discussion, right? For these decisions about what the change is and where we're going. Dialogic OD looks like tiny experiments with new experience created after the fact based on what we've learned, course correction, but also future direction determined based on the result of that experiment, as opposed to a predetermined, pre-planned curriculum. Dialogic OD is focused on dialogue as kind of the core tool that helps organizations identify their situation, what obstacles they're facing, what the path forward is. More specifically, it's focusing on how the current situation is interpreted, how that interpretation creates obstacles, limitations, and how changing the language can change the possibilities. I am pulling this information, kind of paraphrasing it from these two books. This one I talked about in the video yesterday, Dialogic Process Consulting, Dr. Robert Marshak. This one, The Dynamics of Generative Change, Dr. Jervis Bush. Great resources for you if you want more information about what Dialogic OD is.